Ghormeh Sabzi is a mixed herb stew and it is one of the most loved Persian dishes. Today I'm going to show you how to make it in a very simple and delicious way. In addition to herbs being the key ingredient for this dish, we like to use dried lime. It just adds a beautiful layer of flavor and it's just a must-have part of this recipe. Dried lime is one of the most important ingredients in Ghormeh Sabzi, but it can also turn your dish quite bitter. Now, a key tip on how to add the flavor without the bitterness is to poke each dried lime with a fork, like so. And then I'm gonna soak it in boiling hot water for a couple of hours. You wanna make sure, because sometimes the dried lime can be quite hard, so make sure you are careful. I'm gonna soak it for at least 2 hours, ideally 4 hours if you have time. And you want to rinse it every hour, hour and a half, just to make sure that bitterness flavor is washed out. There are different variations of how you can make Ghormeh Sabzi. Some people like to add coriander, spinach, but I keep mine quite simple. The key herbs I use are parsley, green onions, chives, and fenugreek. I've pre-chopped all my ingredients because it is quite a labor-intensive process. And what I'm gonna do is just dry fry it first. Here's my parsley, green onions, and chives. And I'm just going to dry fry it until all the moisture comes out. It's gonna literally half in size, and then I'll fry it with some vegetable oil. This takes maybe about 7 to 10 minutes. You'll notice at this point, there's a lot of steam that's coming out, and that's the moisture in the herbs, which is evaporating. And once you start feeling that a lot of the excess moisture from the herbs has evaporated, then we'll fry it into the vegetable oil. So when you kind of squeeze the vegetables, if you see some water coming through, that means we still need to continue frying it without oil. Next, I'll add some vegetable oil to the herbs and I'll fry it until it starts to develop a nice dark green color. It's really important not to over fry because it will affect the final color of your stew. So you don't want it to get too dark because you want to have a nice rich green color but not a dark black color. It's been about 10 minutes since I fried the herbs with vegetable oil and it slowly started to develop a beautiful dark green color. At this point, I'm just gonna turn it off and then add the fenugreek. It's really important not to fry the fenugreek with the other herbs because if you over fry it, it has a very bitter flavor which will affect the final taste of the stew. But if you just add it in the end, it's just going to add a beautiful layer of flavor to the stew. So now I'm just going to reserve my herbs on the side. And another tip when preparing this recipe is that the preparation of the herbs from chopping to frying can be quite long and tedious. So sometimes I'll make large batches at one time and then freeze them in little portions so that they're ready to use whenever I want for a weekday Ghormeh Sabzi meal. Okay, I'm just gonna give this pot a little wipe before I continue with the next step of frying the onions and basically adding the finishing touches of the stew. My mixed herbs are ready and now it's time to start with the next step. So in a large pot, I'm gonna add some vegetable oil. Here I've got 1 onion which I've diced and I'm just gonna saute until translucent. Once the onions have softened, I'm gonna add in my turmeric and black pepper. And you just wanna fry so that the raw flavor of the turmeric comes out. And next, I'll add in my lamb cubes and just fry for about 7 to 10 minutes. Then once the meat is browned, I'll return my fried herbs back into the pot. And I'll add 2.5 liters of water. And I'm just gonna let this simmer on medium heat for at least 90 minutes, ideally more if you have time. This is one of those dishes that the longer and slower it cooks, the better tasting it is. And then we'll add in our beans and our dried limes. My stew's been bubbling now for about 2 hours, and you'll see that the liquid has reduced. And at this point, I'm gonna add my soaked dried lime. Salt. And my kidney beans. And I'm gonna let this simmer for an additional 30 minutes on low heat without the lid. What I want is for all the flavors to infuse together, and the liquid will reduce even further. And this dish will be ready to be served with some Persian rice on the side. My Ghormeh Sabzi is ready and it smells spectacular. A quick tip if you're hosting a dinner party is to prepare this the night before. The flavors infuse further and the final result is something amazing. And I always like to serve my Ghormeh Sabzi with a plate of mixed herbs. I've got green onions, mint, parsley, basil, radishes, and if there's anything else that you want to add, there's no harm. And finally, for that perfect bowl, look at how beautiful this looks. I just add a generous spoonful onto my plate. Don't forget to add a piece of dried lime if you like. This hearty and comforting mixed herb stew is definitely worth all the time and effort. Definitely try it at home and do let me know what you guys think. See you guys later.